we need some geologists to just go down into
Yeah.
Australia and do research on that gravel because I don't know what they have in that, but it's not in the periodic table. So welcome everybody to another episode of the Revved Up Podcast. Thank you for joining us wherever you choose to get your podcasts. Thank you for watching us on YouTube. Make sure to like and subscribe. Make sure to download and review us if you're listening. My name is Marwan Osman. I'm joined by the one and only Edgar O'Neill. Edgar, what's going on, man?
Not much, not much. How you doing?
Not too bad, you know. I don't know if so. Not to just jump right in because there's a lot to talk about, right?
Crazy race. Crazy
There's a
race.
lot, and I didn't even know where I wanted to start.
Yeah.
But so, if for those that don't know, we are in the Eastern time zone. So this
Mm.
was a 1 a.m. start time for us. So for me personally, the odds of making it past midnight nowadays are very slim. So there was just no chance of me watching this race live. And so of course, woke up Sunday morning, had to hopped on the Hulu. And tell me if you had a similar experience to this where I turned it on and I saw 3 hours.
Yeah.
And that's when I was like, oh, what do we have here? What do we have here? And then, of course, right away, first lap, we see uh, some shenanigans ensue. Just overall, what was your overall reaction to this race? Just big picture, because we're gonna dive in and break this down.
All right, big picture. I'm glad I didn't watch it live.
Hmm.
Because
Same.
imagine being up until that would have been 4 in the morning, right?
That's
Yeah.
right. Yeah,
But watching it with the God-given luxury of fast forwarding,
man.
what a
I,
great race.
I just had a smile on my face whenever I was hitting that fast forward, the skip 10 seconds button on Hulu.
Hmm.
It's like, man, this is the best invention of all time here. And yeah, we actually got very lucky to have this be the 1 a.m. start race that we
Yeah.
tune into late. But no, this race really just had everything. I mean, we saw a car caught on fire. We
Yeah.
saw Max Verstappen at one point was ahead by 10 seconds. And then it just, of course, he ended up with the win.
Mhm.
And so we gotta, before we dive into what happened at the end there, because that's what everybody's really talking about and focused
Yeah.
on is that weird ending to the race. We should at least give Max Verstappen his flowers, his props, right?
Yeah.
What do you think of his performance?
I mean, I thought it was good. I think talking about that, just we have to talk about that. There was 3 world champions on the podium, which I saw first time it happened since 2018, I think. But yeah, obviously they're all. I mean, okay, so since it was all world champions on the podium, these are all great drivers. So of course Max did a great drive. It's you know,
Yeah, and look, we have to at least say that because going into this race, we had I'm sure he heard the talking. There's actually no doubt in my mind that he heard the rumblings. And honestly, what it sounded starting like it was some wishful thinking, which is people were saying, can Sergio Perez maybe pull a Nico Rosberg here,
mm,
in 2016 and steal that championship away? And honestly, it was a loud minority of people saying it, but I'm sure Max Verstappen probably heard that, and
yeah,
he was like, "All right, let me remind these folks real quick who they're talking about," and that he did. He got first, and he started first. He ended in first. There was a twisty road in getting there, but at the end of
yeah.
the day, he showed his greatness again, right?
Yeah, well, I got it. Okay, so I'm gonna comment on that because so people are talking about the championship already, which is understandable, but it was only the third race. I also that hit me as I started the race when they were like round 3 and we have 23 more to go.
Yeah, it's it's the third race, but he's
Yeah.
also ahead. Let me see, I have it here. He's up by 15 points on second place right now in the standings,
Mhm.
which of course is not a lot. It's still early.
Yeah.
But just from what we're seeing here was Max Verstappen last year put one of the most impressive seasons of all time last year. And he looks better this year. He just
Yeah.
looks like he's flat out driving better, and the car looks like it's performing better.
Yeah, it's gonna come down to the car. Like,
Of course.
if he gets a DNF,
Yeah,
that's
that
what I'm expecting. Like, I think that the championship is up for grabs because I'm expecting Max to get a DNF at one point.
and that's fair. I mean, every car seems to be having some sort of reliability issue here early on to start. Of course, we saw George Russell and his car catch on fire,
Which
which
technically shouldn't have that made it gone faster.
yeah,
From the video, it looked like
honestly,
it should have made it gone faster.
I think you might be onto something here. But no, just seeing that, I mean, honestly, I felt kind of bad for him for a little
Yeah,
bit there.
dude. Yeah,
He was putting on a great drive from the start. He got a good jump on Max Verstappen, took the lead. Then he, of course, the unfortunate restart there.
after he pitted, that's what like got me.
Yeah.
It was
Hmm.
like when he did the pit, and then it was the red flag, and I was like, oh,
Yeah,
oh,
and
this suck.
it seemed like things actually broke Lewis's way for once with the pit
Yeah,
stops. He was telling them, this is a bad idea not having me pit stop here, but it actually ended up being working out in his favor. So good for Lewis in that
yeah.
regard. But no, so yeah, Max Verstappen got the win, but of course that's what we expect, and it's we can't just come here and talk about Max nonstop because otherwise that'd be all we could talk about, Max Verstappen winning, because
Yeah.
that's all we got right now. Of course, we have the ending of this race, which confusing.
So confusing.
Very people were angry. There was people, of course, had their anger directed towards the FIA, which
Yeah.
is I'm gonna say something a little shocking, which is to say that this is not entirely on the FIA here. Honestly, this was a case of honestly the drivers themselves were
Yeah.
were causing this. We saw them honestly get a little reckless in that second restart. This was three. We had three restarts.
Yeah, because there
First
was
time ever, I think it was, yeah, first time ever we've had three restarts, which is insane. We sometimes go whole seasons without having a restart. So just three in one race was just crazy. But no, that very last one, what do you think was going through the FIA's thought process there? Was it just, all right, we messed up last time and how the race actually ended? Um,
yeah, I still don't understand how the race ended.
yeah, so what they ended up doing was saying, all right, we're gonna have a safety car lap. Of course, that counts towards the lap count.
Yeah.
And so, in a way, the race just ends under safety car conditions. If Max
Okay,
Verstappen
so
just doesn't release the field, I guess, to race, that's just how it ends. So it was a very confusing ending.
yeah.
And honestly, it looks bad on the FIA, but I really do think it was just a case of the drivers struggling. Nico should have avoided that wall. He got a
Yeah.
little overzealous there, and they were all just fighting for any advantage they can get at the end there. What do you think about the penalty on Carlos Sainz, though? Was given a 5-second penalty at the end there after all the cars were bunched up, which essentially means he gets pushed back to last. But
Because
what
he
he
hit
did,
Alonso.
yeah, he hit Alonso, and he was, I guess it was deemed reckless on his part by the FIA. So they gave him that penalty. Just the fact that they did it so quickly, though, I think was them trying to make up for what happened last time with Alonso and George Russell with the whole podium issue. And
Yeah.
coming back, I don't know, a couple days later and ended up giving it to Alonso. I think they were just trying to make up for that. But no, so they gave Carlos Sainz that penalty, 5 seconds, and immediately just threw him to the back of the field. Do you think that was a fair one? Was given a five?
If his car was the first like to make contact with another one, that technically started it,
Yeah.
kind of.
Mhm.
So I guess that makes sense.
It's always funny. It's just like, who do we blame this on? And everyone
Yeah.
immediately just wants to go to the FIA. And 9 times out of 10, that is justified. But this is just one of those times where I think they were really in a lose-lose situation, honestly.
Yeah.
But no, so let's talk about this Ferrari team a little bit more because
Yeah.
that was just
It was a
very
bad race for
unfortunate.
them.
Uh, yeah, it was a terrible weekend overall. We saw them in qualifying. The car just looked abysmal. Honestly, it just looked like it wasn't going to be competitive. And honestly, Carlos Sainz was kind of proving that wrong before his penalty and the terrible ending there. He actually looked like he was maxing out the performance. But no, so of course we saw Charles Leclerc. He was hit by Lance Stroll, I believe.
No.
Although it was an interesting case there where you could honestly say Charles Leclerc was being a little overly aggressive on the turn there, and spun him out into the gravel. What do you think about just Ferrari overall and their overall state?
It's I have been optimistic in the first two races, I guess. Um, this one was a little. I mean, I don't know if they're going to get second in the championship because that's honestly what it is. It's like there's no way that they're going to get first.
Yeah, and
Uh,
that was the what I thought was the most interesting storyline that we had here was that battle for second place with Mercedes, Aston Martin,
yeah,
and Ferrari. It's now starting to look like it's a two-way battle between Mercedes and Aston Martin because
knock on wood.
we're seeing an unfortunate turn of events here with Ferrari, where we saw last year they constantly couldn't get out of their own way, and it looks like things are going bad to worse here with Ferrari. Those of us that picked Charles Leclerc to win the championship are, I would understand those people being a little frustrated. I'm not saying that as one of those people, not that there's video evidence of that at all. But no, that was it. It's actually kind of funny. I did pick him to win the championship, and you, of course, picked Lando Norris. And at the time, I was like, that is crazy. You picking Lando Norris. And now here we are with Lando Norris ahead of Charles Leclerc in the standings. So yeah, it's looking like I was the one that actually threw the crazy take out there with Charles Leclerc. I mean, we're both crazy with our predictions, obviously. But no, I think it's definitely an interesting turn of events here. These standings are looking a little surprising right now, just as far as where everybody is. Before we move on, before I forget, because I'm worried I'm going to forget to do this. Oscar Piastri, congrats to him. Yeah, he got points, first time scoring points, home race. Yeah, good for him. That's all I could say there.
Yeah. So I'm gonna say it because McLaren did a good job. Had a good weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Even like the battles were good. There was the Norris Hulkenberg battle, which it was just pretty. It was just a pretty.
Yeah, that was just overall. This race just gave us everything, really. It was probably the best case scenario. This is what we have been waiting for all season. Not to get ahead of ourselves, but we do have Baku next, which we'll see.
Month away though.
Yeah, 3 weeks from now. But yeah, no. So back to Ferrari real quick. So like I was saying, it's looking like they're not going to be battling for that second spot, in my opinion. That's unfortunate. Do you think? Well, they already made changes to their leadership, team principal, strategist. I think. Do we have to say goodbye to one of those two drivers soon? I think they're still under contract for next year. It would obviously have to be Carlos Sainz, right?
Yeah, which is why I say no. Because well, I mean, even if they did get rid of Carlos Sainz, there's no way that he should be out of F1. But I also don't think I don't think that should be their move.
Yeah, and no, I get that. It's just you got to change something, though, right?
You can't. Yeah, but not the driver. I mean, yeah, not the drivers right now.
And I don't know.
I wouldn't say insanity. This is what was the Williams pairing? This isn't a George Russell, Nicholas Latifi kind of pairing.
Okay, well, look, all I'm saying is eventually something will have to change, and we're seeing this team just continually underperform. So
change the car.
That is always a good idea. Yeah. Look, things are not looking great for Ferrari, but things are looking great for Mercedes. We saw one
weekend.
Yeah, so that's actually what I was going to ask you was, do you think this performance here that we saw out of Mercedes, even with George Russell's car catching on fire, which it depends on how you as an optimist see that as a one-time thing, or is it something to worry about? But no, it's something to worry about, or
I think it's something to worry about now. Now that we're thinking about it, yeah.
I mean, this is a car that we've seen be really reliable in the past. I personally, as a fan of Mercedes in general, I just don't see it as a concern. Now, I'm sure those folks in the garage are a little worried about it, but me personally, until we see, I don't know, a couple these reliability issues show up one or two more times, then it might be something to discuss. But no, they generally put out a really reliable car. But
Well,
no,
it wasn't performing. Like in the first two races, it wasn't performing. Suddenly it's performing, and then you have that issue.
that's fair. And yeah, it may be a cause for concern there that maybe think they were pushing a little too hard, or they made some incorrect tweaks. But the point is they are making tweaks, and
Yeah.
we're seeing the car be at a pretty competitive level here. Of course, obviously nowhere near the Red Bull, but of course nobody's near the Red Bull. But
Yeah.
so what I was going to ask you though is, do you think this performance from Mercedes was more of a turning point, or was it maybe a one-off thing?
Right now, I lean more towards the side of a one-off thing.
Okay.
Yeah, because I don't think that they were doing too great in the first races, like I said. And then I'm sure they did the tweaks, but the fact that those tweaks led to what was happening with George Russell, I feel like that's scary.
And hey, like I said, it could also honestly be partly how you see the world. Honestly.
Yeah, no, I'm just right.
If you're
No,
if you're an
right.
optimistic person, you can say, "Hey, nothing to worry about. We'll be fine." But if you're generally a worrier, then hey, it's fine. Worry about
Or
it.
you can be wrong.
That,
And that's
true.
okay.
But no, Mercedes is. I think, me personally, I do think they have hit a turning point in the season. I think the reports of their demise has been greatly exaggerated. The reports, of course, were coming from Mercedes themselves.
Yeah.
They were their own biggest haters here, and they proved themselves wrong. I think, honestly, being a little overdramatic with the apology note to their fans. But I mean, hey, that's fine. They like the theatrics.
Yeah.
But no,
I saw a meme Sunday morning that was like the letter, and then it was just like April Fools.
honestly, yeah, good for. But look, Lewis Hamilton P2. That now the second place in the constructors is interesting, but the second place in the drivers is also suddenly becoming a little interesting too. Honestly, I did think Mr. Sergio Perez was going to run away with that. But do you think we might end up seeing Lewis and Alonso maybe at least making it a little worrying or at least make Sergio sweat it out a little bit, right?
No.
Really?
No, because I think he had a mistake this weekend, which I have a theory. But I'll get into it when I talk about Danny Rick.
We are going to get your Danny Rick take at the end here.
And so I think he had that slip up in qualifying that put him in the back. He was still moving forward through the pack, not as great as Max usually does. Like I was surprised how far back he stayed. But no, if he doesn't make mistakes during qualifying, he's going to be number 2 or 3. If the car is fine, he's going to keep those positions during the race. I don't think this hurt him that much.
Okay. So I think Lewis Hamilton is my only argument there. Lewis Hamilton. I think
you're giving a lot of faith to Mercedes and Hamilton right now.
Maybe.
Which, hey, you do you. Different strokes for different folks.
All I'm seeing is we saw some chinks in the armor here with Red Bull. One thing that was notable was the tire warm-up that Mercedes has. It looks like they have the best tire warm-up. As far as vehicle performance goes, it looks like they are top of the grid when it comes to tire warm-up.
You're giving a lot.
This is just from what I've been seeing this season, and honestly, this last race we saw in all of the restarts. Really, the first, obviously, when the race first started, we saw George Russell jump ahead of Max Verstappen. Now, of course, this is all a moot point because once the tires do get warmed up, the Red Bull just easily flies right past them, and it doesn't matter. But it is something at least worth noting here that Mercedes does have to their advantage, and possibly something that they can build off of as well. So that's why I'm not ready to just say Sergio has that second place spot locked up. We did see a slip up there with him into the gravel in qualifying, and with Charles Leclerc, we need some geologists to just go down into Australia and do research on that gravel, because I don't know what they have in that, but it's not in the periodic table. So, but no, it was definitely interesting to see just how at some point in that race it turned into a tire management strategy. I think between lap 30 to lap 35 ish, around there, we saw teams were trying to figure out, okay, do we take these hard tires to the very end, or do we just maybe think about sneaking in a quick little pit stop in there? Now, I was going to ask, overall, who do you think was the biggest winner as far as this race goes? I mean, driver of the day went to Sergio Perez, I think, right?
I think, yeah, driver of the day went to Sergio Perez, but I think the biggest winner is probably Hamilton.
Mm-hmm.
Because it got podium, second place still, and then he got another world record.
He did, yeah. 17 podiums in a row for him. All record for, most consecutive podiums.
Yeah. Going back to my surprise face from earlier, what I realized, because the contact with the wall just blew up, Magnussen's tire. If it was a set of fresher tires, would that impact not have been what it was?
We need
Something
someone
for the scientists out there.
Yeah, we do need the scientists while they're researching the rocks down in Australia to also research the tires and the walls there.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was really just a weird overall restart to me. Just seeing,
because I felt like once it hit the wall, that tire just like.
Yeah, I really don't know what happened there, honestly. But the FIA felt like they had to restart the whole race. Yeah. But honestly, we also have to just mention real quick. Well, actually, no. Let's pause. What was your Danny Rick?
I mean, it's a few things about Danny Rick, and you told me not to make enemies, but I don't care. I am cool. I am tired of Daniel Ricciardo.
Wow.
This week, I just felt like he was everywhere, and I get it. It was the Australian Grand Prix, but he's not a driver. There's already an Australian driver. We have Oscar Piastri right now, but there was like these news blurbs about Danny coming back, and then he even said that, there's been a lot of talk about me getting a seat next year, and then people are like piling on about that. It's like, Danny's going to be on the grid next year. It is now it's April. It's April. Unless they're making the announcement like at the beginning of May, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to fucking hear it.
This sounds a lot like the inner McLaren fan coming out here. I'm not saying there's any animosity towards Danny Rick, but I could understand where you're coming from as a McLaren fan here.
I would be acting the same way if Mercedes was doing the same with the shit with Mick Schumacher. But
that's fair. Not. Yeah, no one is really trying to listen to what Mick Schumacher is up to. I mean, with Danny Rick though, the man's got it made. Honestly, he's third driver. The third driver position sounds like it's like the best job in the whole world. You just travel around the world, hop on that racing simulator every now and then. Just hop on a jet with your homies and just kick it. Honestly, I think there was an interview I saw, I think, before the season started, and they asked Danny Rick, so what exactly will you be doing as the third driver? And he was struggling from the get-go. Like, so I'm just going to be around the team and helping however I can. And he was struggling after that. But no, he's got it made. It can't deny the fact that it's a nice gig that he's got. But look, man, there was one thing that I wanted to talk about here. The poor Alpines, man.
Yeah.
That was just really unfortunate. Can't really put all the blame on Pierre Gasly there. He locked up and drove into his teammate. But they are sent tumbling down to the standings now.
Yeah.
Which I do want to just dive back into these standings real quick for the constructors. I have last year's pulled up for some reason. So yeah, now we see, the question I asked you last time was, will we see AlphaTauri or McLaren get those points first? And they both got in the points, so good for them. But
all right,
look at McLaren.
Where did Yuki? Because that is actually, I always want to make sure that Yuki finishes before De Vries.
Oh yeah, he did. We saw Yuki up into the points thanks to that penalty. We somehow almost had a podium featuring Nico Hulkenberg if they didn't do the reset.
Yeah.
But it just wasn't meant to be. The man is now at, I think, 250. I'm just kidding. He's at 84 races
Oh
currently.
wow. So
And
yeah, so closer to 2.
yeah, I think he owns the record for most races currently without a podium.
Yeah.
Good for him.
Not a record you want, but
Definitely not, but he's got it, and he's got to own it. But no, overall, it was a very entertaining race. We got highs and lows. Max Verstappen, of course, continues to show out and run away with this championship. But yeah, congrats to Max Verstappen. Next up, though, we do have Baku. Looking forward to that, even though it is in 3 weeks.
yeah.
But hey, what are you gonna do?
What's
But
the time on that for us too?
yeah, we'll figure something out how to kill the time. But for now,
7 a.m.
7 a.m. start time. That'll be fun.
7 a.m. start time.
But yeah, for now, let's just wrap this thing up. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you once again for joining us for another episode of the Revved Up Podcast. Make sure if you're watching us on YouTube to like and subscribe. If you're listening to us, make sure to download and review us. We greatly appreciate the feedback, preferably if it's good.
Yeah.
We're very sensitive people. We only want good reviews, honestly. But no, we will catch you guys very soon.
Adios.